Well, thank you so much, Karen. By the same token, South Bend is proud of you. So congratulations on your new leadership role, as you and I both leave Notre Dame for public service. Congratulations to Ms. Gladys on your retirement, although as your leadership of this event reminds us, the idea of Gladys Muhammad retiring is kind of a contradiction in terms. And just warmest greetings and thanks to everyone there. This is the first time I've had a chance to speak to many in South Bend since the whirlwind of the last year. And South Bend is always home, and I have been so proud of the way the community has pulled together in the face of everything that's gone on around us. I want to thank the committee for bringing together this event under such unusual circumstances. I think about gathering for breakfast at the Century Center as we would have been doing 5 years ago or even 1 year ago, with no idea of what this year that has come since was going to throw at us. It would have been truly impossible to imagine what was coming our way. As we speak right now, I'm speaking to you from our nation's capital, under guard in the wake of an insurrection that included white supremacist violence aimed at the literal heart of our democracy. And to me, these times are a reminder that there's nothing empty or routine about our democratic processes, even though we may have become numb to the significance of something like a peaceful transfer of power, because we saw it happen again and again. But it's a reminder that there's nothing routine about it. And there's certainly nothing routine or rote about pausing to consider the legacy of Dr. King, especially at a time like this, knowing that his legacy is not some historical curiosity. It's something we are called and challenged to be part of, especially now, in this season of our life in the country, conscious of what Dr. King himself called the fierce urgency of now. And in those remarks, when he used those words, he also warned us in this unfolding conundrum of life and history, he said, there is such a thing as being too late. And I think America right now is being confronted with the question of whether it's too late, whether we have acted too late to stem the tide of hate, to acknowledge the reality of systemic racism, to recognize that every American, including or indeed especially white Americans, must confront our place, recognize that we have been assigned a place in a racialized system that cannot stand, and that is so much a part of the air we breathe that it could go unnoticed until it really is too late. Some believe it is too late now, that the events of the last month have shown us that America's worst demons have once and for all caught up to us. But I believe this is the exact time when we can and must act to bring about as great a leap toward justice as we've ever seen. Since the cry for racial justice comes through every area of our society and our life, it also means that part of the solution rests with each of us. Every dimension of our social and community and national life touches this struggle in some way. So, for example, consider the assignment that President-elect Biden has asked me to take on, looking after transportation and infrastructure in our country. To some, this might seem like a bloodless and technical enterprise, unglamorous and disconnected from the great moral struggles of our time. But in fact, the way Americans physically move around cannot be separated from the deepest questions of racial justice. In our country, areas have been neglected or cut off from opportunity, so-called transit deserts. And they have often been Black neighborhoods, and not by accident. Scarce transportation dollars have passed over the areas with the least social and political power. Or even worse, transportation dollars were invested in Black neighborhoods in the worst way, like placing a highway in the middle of them to divide them in two. There's a recent article by Vanderbilt Law Review that examined the ways in which these harms built up. They pointed out, for example, that the construction of an interstate in Pittsburgh devastated a Black community called the Hill District, cutting it off from downtown and leading the population to collapse from over 54,000 to 9,500, while some 400 businesses were lost. And these inequities, historic inequities, but present day inequities, are inseparable from the challenges of racial and economic justice that our country has confronted in new ways after the murder of George Floyd. So this is one of the reasons why, if I'm confirmed, equity will so vitally be a priority in the Department of Transportation. It means supporting communities that have historically been denied adequate investment. It means making sure public dollars spent on major projects go to a business base that actually resembles the diversity of the American taxpayers who pay for it. And it means recognizing that legacy of neglect or damage done in the past, something that we in South Bend have seen in so many ways. It's no accident that the civil rights movement's most significant phase began in part with the Montgomery bus boycott. It was about transit and transportation and the way that transit and transportation can help or harm racial and economic justice. And of course, it's no accident that in South Bend, our tradition of honoring Dr. King has included not only gatherings like this annual breakfast, but the renaming of one of the most prominent streets in our city. As residents in the community reminded me during my time as mayor, as we were working to get it done, there was powerful symbolism in seeing the lit sign of a Transpo bus read MLK Drive, as it now does. We were proud to honor Dr. King and the struggle he represents with the street renaming, with the statue on Main Street, with this day becoming a city holiday at last. But we know the most important ways of honoring Dr. King's call for justice is in what we do. And in this sense, today is a day of action and service, a day on, not a day off, which has been the tradition in our community for decades. I continue to be convinced that in our lifetime, we will live either to see white supremacy defeated or to see it defeat the American project. That is in our hands, all of our hands, in ways large and small. The months that we are living in right now will be remembered, marked no less indelibly on the timeline of the American story than the extraordinary years in which Dr. King taught and preached and led. So today, may we all find ways to do our part, large and small, toward ensuring that our nation can one day look back on these moments, on this season, with the satisfaction that we were part of making that long moral arc of the universe that Dr. King spoke of bend more and more swiftly in the direction of justice. I know that that spirit lives so energetically in the community in and around South Bend, and I will carry that spirit with me everywhere that I go, as South Bend is always my home. Thank you for the chance to join you. Thanks for everything that you do in the struggle for justice. And thank you for carrying forward.